Tyra Show, the 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 Tyra Show. Social, political, cultural, the Tyra Show. Woo!
Today we have Dr. D coming to talk to us about the HIV epidemic.
Oh, thanks for having me today.
You're always welcome. How did the Reagan administration affect AIDS?
Well, Ronald Reagan, to me and to the author of And the Band Played On, did not do much. He dragged his feet in the process and didn't really address the issue. So the issue really expanded without his help.
Is there a major person or event that had a major impact on you with your experience with AIDS?
Yes, Ryan White. He was a student at a high school who was denied to come back because he was diagnosed with AIDS because he was contaminated by a needle. In fact, he actually died in 1990, but it really opened up people's eyes from thinking AIDS was just for gays to really a broader concept. And in fact, the Ryan White care legislation was passed, which provides aid for people with AIDS and HIV.
What role did Mr. Schultz play in your knowledge of the HIV and AIDS?
Well, I think he really broadened my eyes and got me interested in the concept. His book talks about the chronological order of HIV and AIDS and basically the facts that they knew at the time about it.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. Have me again.
I'll always will. Now we have Daddy Bush.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. Mr. Bush, what election did you run in and what role did it play?
I ran originally in 1980, but I was beat in the primary by Ronald Reagan, but he actually chose me as his vice president. And then after his term, I served as president from 1989 to 1993. And throughout my entire vice presidency, I've been very loyal to Reagan, I'd like to think. And I've kept a relatively low profile.
Would you like to tell us what war on drugs is?
The war on drugs is a government campaign of the prohibition of drugs, military aid, and military intervention with a primary aim to end the illegal drug trade.
Did any event or policy contribute to the presidency?
The foreign policy actually drove my presidency. The Berlin Wall fell in 1989 when my presidency was just beginning. When Reagan was shot, I was actually about to become president. But on April 28th, 1982, I met with Prime Minister of Singapore for a discussion about regional security and the world economy and Soviet expansion in Southeast Asia.
Where are some places that you traveled and for what?
In November 1982, I toured in Africa, which was the first instance of American government visiting there since the Reagan administration had begun. And on November 15th, I actually met with the United States Secretary of State, George P. Shultz, and Yuri Andropov in Moscow to discuss human rights and arms reductions. The meeting was frank, cordial, and substantive.
Well, thank you for coming on our show today.
Thank you.
Nice to have you. Ladies and gentlemen, today we will have the President of the United States, Ronald Reagan.
Nice to meet you. Thank you for having me on.
Mr. President, what were some of the important events during your presidency?
Well, the day after my inauguration, the American hostages in Iran, they were let go the day right after my inauguration. The tearing down of the Berlin Wall came down after I did my speech there. The decline of communism, and I further expanded America's war on drugs, and I instituted Reaganomics.
How did war on drugs affect your presidency?
Well, the war on drugs probably damaged my presidency the number of arrests and incarcerations due to nonviolent drug arrests, they soared. The public was not very happy with the legislation, such as the Anti-Drug Abuse Act, establishing a minimum sentence for specific drug offenses.
And what was the purpose behind Reaganomics?
The purpose behind Reaganomics was to spur growth within the economy. It provided tax cuts to industries and corporations so that they could put it back into the economy through jobs and increased productivity. It also decreased social spending on welfare and increased spending for the military. I mean, I gave some of our greatest men and women the biggest pay raise of their year, of their careers.
Why do you think your administration saw such a rise in nationalism?
I believe that such a decline in communism led to the uprising of American nationalism. After the Berlin Wall was torn down on November 9th, 1989, I mean, you might have seen the speech I did there where I said, Gorbachev, tear down this wall. And also the United States hosted the 1984 Olympics, and we got first place, and we won 4 times as many gold medals as Romania, who got second place.
Can you tell us about the AIDS epidemic in America?
Well, I realized the need for action, and I committed millions of dollars to research, care, and public education on the AIDS topic. And they also said by 1988 that there was about 20,000 people that had been infected, so I knew I needed to do something about it.
Oh, that's amazing. Well, thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, hello there! So you want to go on the Oregon Trail? Well, let me tell you, it's worth it. They have great scenery, fantastic food, and you can react with the nearby wildlife. I may be an old country bumpkin with not no sense, but I sure do know a good deal when I see one. It's a great opportunity for me and Grandpappy Joe to make a better life for us. Only $400 per person. If you're heading west, use Uber West. Uber West is not responsible for any illness, injury, or death. Shipping rates may apply.
Welcome back to the Tyra Show. Next, we will have Bob Ross coming to talk about his amazing artwork. Oh, hello, Mr. Ross.
Hey.
What was it like to serve in the Air Force?
I served between 1961 and 1981, where I was ranked Master Sergeant. It's basically, I just told people to make your beds and eat your food and fold your clothes, and yeah.
What show did you lead and what is it known for?
I led the show, The Joy of Painting, where I'm known for my creative technique of wet on wet painting, so then I could get different textures. And with that technique, I was famous for landscape painting.
How much did you change for painting and what did that have to do with you dropping out of school?
I learned how to paint when I was in the Air Force. I didn't know before that. Before that, I was in high school and I dropped out in the 9th grade to help my father, who was a carpenter.
Do you have any pets and how do they influence you?
I do have a pet. I have a pet squirrel. His name is Peapod. He was on the show a few times. Sometimes I would get him out and I would pet him. He's actually right here if you want to see him.
Keep that away from me.
He's very cute. And I also had a pet alligator, which I kept in my bathtub.
Oh, that's adorable. Well, thank you, Mr. Ross, for letting me interview you. It's nice meeting you.
Nice meeting you too. You want to see one of my paintings?
Of course. Isn't that just amazing? I'm so amazed at the beauty of such artwork. Today we have Sandra Day O'Connor coming to talk to us about the Supreme Court.
Hello. Thank you for inviting me today.
It's glad to meet you, Sandra.
It's very nice to meet you also, Tyra.
So Sandra, how many years were you appointed to the Supreme Court?
I was appointed for 24 years, and I was the first woman to be appointed.
Can you tell me some specific cases that influenced you?
One that really stuck out to me was Woman versus Hogan. In 1982, I wrote a majority opinion for it. Another one would be Planned Parenthood versus Casey. I gave that needed vote that they needed.
What and who is your book about?
My book is about the lazy bee, and it talked about how I grew up and the hardships that I faced with my brother.
Can you tell me what made you retire?
My dear husband. I really do love him, and I spent a lot of time away from him during my job, so in 2006 I retired. We have 3 children together, and we were married in 1952.
That's amazing. Well, thank you, Sandra.
Thank you again. Please invite me another time.
I will.
The Tyra Show, the Tyra Show.
Bob Ross. Ronald Reagan. Dr. D. And Sandra. Daddy Bush. That's it. What? The Tyra Show.
The Tyra Show.
Go when you're ready.
Next, we have the President of the United States.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Bring here. I don't have your questions. What? Good.
Okay.
Does my voice sound wrong?
Right now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And the band played on show. You got me tired.
She doesn't have to look at you.
No, we're doing clips. You're only
You pretend you're looking at her, but she doesn't have to look at you.
Don't. And the band played on show.
Good job, guys.
I know. And the band played on shows. The author talks about how Reagan. No, I can't do this right now.
Okay, go.
Our next guest will be Dr. D to talk about the AIDS epidemic.
We have to do introduction. And I basically told people to make your bed, eat your clothes, that kind of stuff.
What show did you lead and what was it known for?
I led the show Joy and Pain.
Cindy, you know what's wrong? You were laughing.
Wait.
You just cut that out.
I said eat your clothes too.
You're doing good.
Did you just fart?
It's your clothes. Let's go.
I didn't like my intro anyways.
Oh, I liked it.
I'm ready. Ready, guys. Ready, you say it.
The Tyra Show, the Tyra Show. We're getting in on the Tyra Show.
The Tyra Show, the Tyra Show.
All
Help me.
about